So in my last video, I showed you how to make beef jerky using my dehydrator, and I got a big trip coming up to Colorado in a couple of weeks, and so I'm going to use that on the trip. We took all the beef jerky, seasoned it, showed you how to season it, so it showed you how to put it in the dehydrator, and then how to put it in the vacuum sealed bag so it lasts pretty much the entire trip. This time, we're going to do all these vegetables. And if you have never had tomatoes, dehydrated tomatoes, you don't know what you're missing. These things are amazing. Now, when it comes to your squash, you got your zucchini and you got your yellow squash. You're going to cut these up kind of potato chip size. And then when you put them on the dehydrator, you add a little bit of salt. And these are better for you than regular potato chips. They give you the crunch that a potato chip does, and they're healthier for you too. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm also going to show you how to take canned vegetables and put them in the dehydrator and use them. The beautiful thing about mushrooms is that you can take mushrooms that are fresh like this, and you can put them in the dehydrator, and once they dehydrate, you can turn them into a powder. It can add flavor to any of your foods that you're cooking while you're out in the woods. So let's get started. Let's bring on the cutting board, get all this laid out, and I'll show you what I'm going to do next. First, we're going to start with the tomato. It doesn't matter about the butts or the other end. All you're going to do is just go ahead and slice these things relatively thin, about 1/8 of an inch or so, just like that. Now that tomatoes are all sliced up, we're going to put them in the dehydrator, and we might have more room for other things, and if that's the case, we're going to use mushrooms. So as I showed in my last video, we're using the Lim dehydrator. Inside this dehydrator, it has 5 trays. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trays. And then on the bottom, it has a drip tray down here. And that drip tray I like to cover up with parchment paper to keep all the liquids and make it a little easier to clean up. Now, this is the drip tray right here. I'm going to take some of this parchment paper and cover it. And that way it's just a little easier to clean up whenever it's time to clean everything up. Now for our first tray here, we're going to do that again. We're going to take some parchment paper. You don't have to use parchment paper, but I find it easier because it has that no stick side. You flip this dude over like that, and you can put your tomatoes on here and they will still dry through the paper, but it will not stick to the thing, to the tray. So we'll go ahead and start lining these dudes up. You can line them up right where they touch each other. That's fine. All right, we got 3 trays out of the tomatoes. So now all you have to do is just open up your mushrooms and just start placing them on the dehydrator rags. Now the mushrooms they shrivel up the most, so just put a little bit of space in there. Now these are awesome once they're dehydrated because you could just throw them into any kind of food that you're cooking. You can crush them up, make mushroom powder out of it, and it adds a lot of flavor. So you kind of want to make sure that they're at least flat on the surface. You know, they got enough room to let the air circulate through, and that's what's dehydrating them. So now we're going to put these in the dehydrator, and I'm going to show you the settings that we're going to put it on, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Now we got this thing loaded up. Everything's in there. We got our tomatoes on top and the mushrooms on bottom. So now let's go ahead and set this timer. Put our lid on. Right here, the drying guide says for vegetables, it's going to take 4 to 10 hours at 130 to 140 degrees. So we're going to start off with 5 hours and see what it does. And then if it needs more, we'll go ahead and do more that way. So you come over here to your hour section. You just click that up. Like I said, 5 hours. And then we're going to turn our temperature down to 145, 150. And we'll leave it at 150. And then we're going to hit start. All right, after several hours, I had to go back through with the tomato chips. As you notice, they've been rearranged a little bit here. I had to go and flip them over. And then I put 4 more hours on here, so it took, 10 hours to do this. So the tomato chips themselves look pretty good. And they're very crispy, just like I like, because what I'm trying to do is take these and crush it up into a powder or throw it into a stew or some kind of something that I'm cooking. And I think that's going to work out. So let me show you what the mushrooms are looking like. Now the mushrooms shrivel up a lot. Like I was saying before, it didn't matter. You just dump them on there. They're going to shrivel up a lot. And these, they almost have like a styrofoam texture. But you could take and crush these up and make a powder out of them and put it in your food. And it has amazing flavor to it. All right, so with the squash and zucchini, I cut off the tips there. And then I'm going to cut them about 1/4 inch thick on these. Now, when you get to a chunk like this, about this size, you could do this. You can cut it long ways, like that. And you just and you're going to do it a little thinner that way. And this is going to really decrease the size of how much they're going to shrivel up whenever they're dehydrating. Now these make amazing chips for your trip. Now zucchinis are relatively easy. You just come over here and you cut the butts off. And then you just start cutting. You can cut 2 of them at a time. And you're going to have plenty of room on all your drying racks for these. And you can do the same thing. You can cut it long ways if you want. It does not matter. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we are going to put a little black pepper on these. And we'll keep dousing it down with some black pepper, and then we're going to put some salt on there. Alright, and I've already salted those other ones. Now, we're going to a little salt. Don't do a lot. Sometimes it's hard to see the salt. You don't want to make them too salty, but at the same time, you want them to have a little bit of salt on there. Now these are going to make perfect snack chips, perfect for potato chips. You could do this at home as a substitute for potato chips. And I love using this when I go camping or hiking, and especially when I'm camping over an extended period, because these are the perfect chips to take with you. Gives you a little bit of nutrition, a little bit of food, and all the vitamins and everything is in here because all you did was just dehydrate it. Because I have some thicker pieces in there, I'm going to set this for 10 hours. So 10 hours from now, we'll come back and we'll check it. And if it needs to go a little bit longer, we're good. We'll probably check it periodically throughout to make sure that the chips are getting real crisp and it's doing everything it needs to do. So let's go ahead and hit the start button. All right, I'll come back and I'll see you guys in 10 hours. So we got about 30 minutes left on our squash. So what we're going to do is process everything else. All this should fit in this dehydrator whenever it's done. So first with your green onions, and I like to buy the green onions that are on sale, so you get some dead leaves here and there, but these things are cheaper than if you buy the fresh stuff. So what I like to do is I'll just come down here and I'll cut all these off. at the bottom on the roots, just like that. Now, a little trick about this is each one of these that you cut off, you can plant in a flower pot and you'll have green onions all year round from here on out. So I'll save these and I'll replant these, and then it cuts down on buying the green onions. Now from this end, we're just gonna cut relatively small, just like you would if you was getting ready to cook. Now we'll cut out a piece of parchment paper about the size of our rack, and then we'll just dump all these on here, because these are going to fall through the cracks on your racks. Uh-oh, getting this all over the place. So you're going to have to dehydrate these on this parchment paper inside your dehydrator. All right, so now we'll just cut up the onions. Now what I like to do is I like to go north to south, just like that, and just make slices. Now with the bell peppers, I like to cut them east to west, crossways. Now these will shrivel up a lot. All right, so here we go. Our chips are done, and let's see here. Can we focus on this? Oop, let me come down here to the focus. All right, our chips are done, and you want to see a nice little crispy break. That means these dudes are ready to go. So we're going to take these out, and we're going to bag them up and vacuum seal them. And all of them are just crispy. Crispy is just like chips. All right, for our first rack, like I said, we're just going to take that parchment paper, we're going to put it right on top of here, and then we're going to spread these dudes out just a little bit. Now these things are awesome because you can just grab some, throw in your food that you're cooking while you're in the woods, and you're good to go. So let's load this up in the top rack of our dehydrator. For the next rack, what you're going to do is you're going to take your onions and you're just going to spread these dudes out, just like so. And don't worry, they are going to dehydrate just like this. Just spread them out. They're going to shrivel up, they're going to shrink. Now remember, we still have that parchment paper on the bottom of our drip pan. And then as these things dry and shrivel up, then you can come in here and break them up a little bit. This is just giving you more room in the dehydrator. And this is going to make your house smell like a big old bottle of onions. And last one, I told you they don't fit. Just spread these dudes out. All right, here we go. We are done with this. There's all your bell peppers. All right, we'll load this last tray in here. There we go. And we'll put our lid on. Gonna turn the dehydrator on, and for vegetables it's 4 to 10 hours, so we're just gonna go ahead and set it for 10 hours. All right, now we'll keep it at 150 and we're gonna hit the start button. We're done with the dehydrating the onions and the bell peppers, so get ready because these bell peppers are going to be shriveled up to nothing. All right, so here we have the green onions. If you notice, they are all dehydrated. You can turn them into powder real quick. So these are going to be great addition to throw into your food whenever you're cooking. We'll set these to the side, and now the regular onions. Ooh-wee. So these dudes right here are real crispy and falling apart. So you can make onion powder out of these. You could just throw them in your, you could crumble them up, throw them in some food when you're cooking while you're camping. That's what I love about these onions, is that you could just crumble them up and make some onion powder and just change the flavor. So now let's get down to the bell peppers. Now this is going to shock you. That was 5 bell peppers we did. And look how small they shriveled up to. And if you remember, I did a lot. I cut them up pretty good. Now these bell peppers right here, let's see if we can get this in here in focus. But these bell peppers are real small and they're real brittle, so you can grind these up. And I believe red bell pepper is what they use to make paprika out of. So we're going to bag all these up. I'm not going to vacuum seal the bell peppers. I'm just going to put them in a Ziploc bag. And the same thing with the onions. I'm just going to put them in a Ziploc bag. All right, now for these dudes right here, I've already drained the water out of them, and you're just going to dump them out like so, and then just spread them out. Now they're going to shrivel up, but they're going to be very delicious. Now you can add a little bit of salt to these things as well, and then you can eat them as a snack, or you can add them to your food. Now you just do the same thing with your mushrooms. You just put these things on here and just spread them out. Now these are going to shrivel up a lot. Some of them might even fall through the cracks. So that's why we have that catch bin on the bottom down there. And we can just pick them up off of there. So this is what it looks like. Now the asparagus it's gotten real small. It dried up and it's real breakable now. It's real crisp. So now you could put this in a Ziploc bag, crush it up, add some to your food while you're cooking, add some different flavor. Now the same thing with these mushrooms. If you remember, this was 3 cans of mushrooms and 3 cans of asparagus. So you see how well now they're crisped up. Now these mushrooms right here are going to be a little bit different than the ones that you did that were fresh. So what's going to happen is these will be thrown into the food and reconstituted. The other ones will be turned into powder to make a gravy. All right, this was 5 or 6 onions that we put in this Ziploc bag right here. And what I'm learning with these things is that the vacuum seal breaks free. The dehydrated foods actually puncture the bag. So it's not very well with vacuum seal. So I'll just continue using the Ziploc bags here. That was about 5 or 6 onions. We had 5 or 6 zucchinis and squashes in here. Zucchini squash, I think it's yellow squash and zucchini squash, however you want to do it. These are awesome snacks. We salted and peppered these. Then we did some 5 bell peppers. And then that's, believe it or not, that's all 5 bell peppers. Then we did the green onions. These are going to be great in some red beans or some kind of stew. We did 3 cans of mushrooms and 3 cans of asparagus. Now these are going to be chewier, so you're going to have to let these cook a little bit longer than if they were fresh. These were tomatoes, and I'm going to grind this down and just throw it into a stew and just pulverize it a little bit, throw them in there. These tomato chips are amazing. So if you ever want to dehydrate anything, you got a healthy snack, tomatoes are amazing. They have a full flavor. They almost taste like ketchup should, you know. Then we had 3 boxes of mushrooms, and these were fresh mushrooms. These are going to be different than these because these are going to be chewier. It's going to take longer for these to reconstitute. But these fresh mushrooms, you're going to be able to just grind them down and use the powder as like a flavor enhancer or to help make a gravy while you're cooking in the woods. All those vegetables have been dehydrated down to 1 pound, 3.8 ounces. So this is going to be easier to manage when you're hiking into the woods. Some of this is going to be subdivided into smaller packets to be used on a couple day trips here, a couple days there. On my next video, I'm going to dehydrate some smoked salmon. If you would like to see how I made beef jerky, go ahead and click that video right there, and I'll see you next time. God bless you.